Hello and welcome to another edition of Business Africa with me, Amelga. Coming up this week, global banks close offices in Nigeria as the country experiences drop in foreign investment. Blue economy in Mauritius. Seychelles launches world's first bond worth $15 million. And the Chinese currency falls by 10% against US dollars. The international banks, HSBC and UBS, have decided to close their representatives in Nigeria following an announcement by the central bank. No official reason for the closure has been given, as foreign investment in Nigeria, which amounted to $12.2 billion in 2017, is falling. Ruth Lagwan Michael DB tell us more.
Global banks HSBC and UBS have closed their offices and shut down operations in Nigeria. The country's central bank, CBN, in a recent report revealed that foreign investment had fallen sharply from a year ago. The Apex Bank had revealed that foreign direct investment, FDI, in Nigeria fell to $1.2 billion in the first half of the year from $1.7 billion a year earlier. CBN equally revealed that the rise in foreign debt and uncertainty surrounding the 2019 presidential election was a drawback. The UBS opened its doors in Nigeria in mid-2014 to connect prospective clients with its offshore centers in Switzerland, the UK, Dubai, and Singapore. Investor confidence in the West African country has been shaken since the central bank in August ordered MTN to bring back $8.1 billion to the country, part of profits which the South African telecoms firm sent abroad. In a recent tweet, Nigerian former vice president and presidential candidate for 2019 elections, Atiku Abubakar, condemned the move, saying it is a bad day for the country when such entities pack up. An HSBC research note dated July 18 said a second Buhari term raises the risk of limited economic progress and further fiscal deterioration.
$15 million is the worth of the world's first ever blue bond issued by Seychelles. The loan will enable this archipelago of 115 islands finance sustainable marine projects, extend its marine protected areas, and develop the fishing sector. The second largest sector of the Seychelles economy, aquaculture, employs nearly 17% of the working population, according to the World Bank. Onto the Mauritius island, where aquaculture also plays a major role in its blue economy. Yasin Mohaboud has been keen on a farm that generates more than €8 million in turnover.
Operational since 2002, the Mahiberg Marine Farm continues to expand its activity in Mauritius. With 80 marine cages spread over 3 sites, it's one of the leaders in the island aquaculture sector, thanks to its production, which amounts to approximately 3,000 tons of fish per year. The fish arrive freshly caught in the morning. We have the sorting that is done here. They are divided into different categories according to weight. They are frozen and placed directly in a positive cold room and then distributed according to the day's production, according to customer orders, with the fish that are scrapped and not scrapped. The net is lifted or even left in its entirely for export. Despite the 120 jobs created and over $9 million in turnover, the farm is at the center of criticism for fear of a proliferation of sharks and the degradation of marine ecosystems, a statement denied by authorities. All our choices are made strategically to really make a long-term business. We monitor environmental impact on the sites every 6 months. We can say that, on the contrary, we create biomass instead of killing it. 31 sites have been identified for the development of aquaculture farms that could produce 25,000 tons of fish by 2025. More than €200 million are expected.
Development economist Dr. Carlos Lopez now joins us from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello and thanks for joining us.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Seychelles is the first state to issue blue obligations. The country welcomes the use of an innovative financing instrument. Precisely, in what way is it innovative?
You know, normally when we introduce into a country sovereign debt instrument that are a little innovative, people wonder what is really innovative in terms of the financial aspect, and indeed there are a number of obligations that are directly related to the concept, to an idea of sustainability, and therefore the only difference compared to other financial instruments is that the types of conditions that are normally called for by the applicant are already established in advance on the basis that is different from the usual. In other words, a basis that requires compliance with a certain number of criteria, let us say social criteria, in this sense, case environmental criteria. So it's very innovative in that sense, and I think that Seychelles, which has always had a leadership role in the blue economy, has seized this real interest in the blue economy and is finally the first country to set up an instrument of this kind.
It is therefore a question of mobilizing funds to support projects related to the sea. What types of sustainable marine projects are we talking about?
The blue economy is quite large, so it concerns not only the environment but also the people who live off the sea. And the people who live off the sea are not only those who are on the high seas or who are dependent on the economic exploitation of the sea remotely offshore, as we say in English, but all those who are on the coast. So finally, the transport networks, the people who have an economy linked to cities that are coastal, is all part of the blue economy. But in the case of an archipelago such as the Seychelles and others in Africa, what is also important to note is the fact that they have fairly large exclusive economic zones, and they cannot afford to take advantage of the incredible wealth that exists, yet they are suffering enormously from climate change. This will severely affect islands countries because of the likely small rise in sea levels.
Many international meetings have drawn attention to the decline of fish stocks, coastal erosion, and the consequences this could have on poor communities. Are states integrating the blue economy into their national development strategies?
This is slowly starting to become part of the debate, but it is still the very beginning. And it is really interesting that it is the island countries that are leading this campaign a little bit with international organizations, as is the case with the African Union. But I really think it concerns much more than the island countries, and therefore it also concerns maritime safety issues that are linked to illegal fishing. And therefore this illegal fishing is responsible, as you said, for the completely unacceptable changes in the situation of the seas in terms of fish resources in the country that was very rich in fish and suddenly finds itself with this possibility of using makeshift boats to make illegal migration to Europe. It is really a bit the fault of the lack of attention to the blue economy.
Statistically speaking, how is the blue economy evolving on the continent? How are investments in sustainable fisheries management?
Actually, what we can see is that if we take into account all the elements of the blue economy, there is certainly growth since there is so much investment being made in port infrastructure. If only that, it could completely change the appreciation we had a few years ago of the importance of the blue economy and investment directed in that area. On the other hand, what is really not helping positively is the enrichment that are directly related to preservation and sustainability, to sustainability aspects. And here, I think there are a number of activists, a number of organizations that draw attention to the fact that Africa really has an incredible wealth in the seas, much greater than we imagine in relation to extractive industries. For example,
And yet, there is no special legislation that has been granted between African countries beyond maritime safety.
Thank you, Carlos Lopez, for the insights. Carlos Lopez is a development economist with focus on Africa.
It is a pleasure.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, we look at the trade impacts of the economic war between China and the US.
À tout de suite.